guys, do not start that type of thinking. And do not base marriage on what you saw here today. Let me tell you, marriage can be good.
As long as two people establish the correct base, marriage can be fantastic.
All right, you guys are watching way too much television. Listen, it's been a long time since June Cleaver was last on TV. Can you guys honestly name one person or one happily married couple in the 21st century? And if either one of you says the Huxtables,
I, for one, look forward to marriage with the right man.
You know what? That's right. And that's why today is the first day of the rest of your life.
Have a seat.
Call your brother.
Sit down. Now listen. They say one is the loneliest number. It just isn't right to be alone.
In the Bible, in Genesis, it says
to leave mother and father and join to another. Oh, what bliss when each dog finds its bone.
Solitude is so solitary. Isolation tends to isolate. So stop playing the field. Commitment has such appeal. 'Cause marriage can be great.
Marriage can be great when the pieces all fall in place. When the two become one, it's so much fun. Yes, marriage can be great.
So you say one is the loneliest number.
That's right.
But it's better than life caught in strings. Yeah, you're tied by a rope, and life has no hope. You're an eagle, but who's clipped your wings? Freedom is so liberating.
Really?
And variety's the spice of life.
I'm standing right here.
And marriage be great and worth all the wait when it turns into sorrow and strife. Marriage can't be great. Get out before it's too late.
Forget it. The supermarket is closed.
That is so typical of you.
You know what's typical? You trying to be nice to me at bedtime after you've alienated me all day.
You alienated yourself.
Well, here I go one more time for the day. I'm alienating myself again. A man of uncontrollable loins.
You seem to think you can use intimacy as a means of controlling me. Well, let me tell you something, Mrs. I can live without it just as much as you can. Who am I kidding? The woman's a robot.
Please. I'm willing to bet my firstborn you can't last 2 weeks without it.
You'll see. I have self-control. I have to put up this kind of nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Good night, dear.
I can do this. I can do this. I don't need to be tormented like this. I am a grown man. Well, I tell you, no one is going to make me a slave to anything. I don't need it. I am a man, I'm in control, I'll do without it. It'll only help me lose my soul, for there are things that I can do instead of showing love to you. I don't need it. Too many men have lost their minds trying to get peace of mind, hoping to find the one who's kind.
You do for a living.
Oh, I'm currently a dance instructor, but I'm glad to go back to school.
Yes, I believe everyone should have a high school diploma.
You know what they say, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, you know, especially when it's accompanied by a body.
I'm a fourth-year aerodynamics student hoping to join the space program. I'd like to focus on coupled atmospheric hydrology. It's a subject that's intrigued me ever since I was just an Indian little child, and now... Oh, hope I'm not flying above y'all heads. Well, it appears that would be easy since it seems y'all never would have left the ground.
Oh, are you speaking down to us?
I would never do a thing like that. Oh. As a matter of fact, I don't think y'all understood a word I just said. So I wouldn't risk speaking down to y'all. That would be an exercise of futility.
You know, it was a bad idea to have this meeting without Marion. Let's reschedule.
I need to get home to my husband.
But I haven't had a chance to ask your advice yet.
Next time, honey, just hold the thought.
I hope I didn't say anything inappropriate. I was just trying to be friendly.
Look, darling, don't you have some dance class to attend or some book to read on flying? Flying?
If I didn't know better, I think that y'all were trying to get rid of me.
But since you know better, have a good evening.
I pray that ones like you would learn a lesson. There are times to be seen and simply not be heard. The words you speak will tell of your condition. A foot in mouth, disease, brain underload. You cannot judge a book by its cover. You cannot see the heart and mind that is within. You cannot see desire or the drive that takes me higher. You'd like to see me smaller. You can feel much taller. You cannot judge this book by its cover. You cannot see the heart and mind that is within. You cannot see desire or the drive that takes me higher. You'd like to see me smaller so you can feel much taller.
This meeting has a quorum, you're not welcome. We'll take a vote and you'll be on your way. All in favor?
Aye.
Was nice to see you come, but we'd rather see you go. Don't let the doorknob meet you on your pages there below.
Honey, you've got some big chapters.
Honey, y'all are one to talk.
Yes, we can judge that book by its cover.
I don't think so.
We can see the heart and mind that is within.
I thought y'all were supposed to be church ladies.
No need to see desire, 'cause we know you won't get higher.
Your flight will soon be grounded as your trunk is overloaded.
Lexi,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You look kind of surprised a while ago. I did.
You shouted my name. I wasn't ready. I'm ready now.
Okay. We're here again, another week of
Another
UpSurge.
week.
How has your day been?
It's been good. It's been nice. I got to see my aunt today, so it was nice to see her after a while. Yeah.
good.
How was your day, Ben?
It was great. I realized that you were online watching the service today.
Yes, I was. It was about the Holy Spirit, correct?
That is correct.
And the wind. Yeah, that was really interesting. That was really interesting how you tied those things in.
Yeah. So today we are doing our part 1 of a part 2 production. Prejudice, racism, it's the talk now. I mean,
Yeah.
the world is being made aware as to
What's going on.
What's going on.
We could have 5 parts, really.
We could have 5 parts. So this week we have 2 guests on set, but next week we're working on a panel, right?
Yeah.
Who do you have?
So today I'm going to be interviewing Jabari Lindsay, our resident troublemaker. That's what they call him at Meadowvale.
He's my good elder.
Of course. No, Jabari has been a mentor to the youth, and it's definitely good to hear from him, especially from a social work perspective.
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
And who are you interviewing this week?
I have Carl Cunningham. He's from Carl Hutchinson. He's from the Apple Creek Church.
Okay.
He's a writer. He does plays. He has a lot to share.
Wow.
On the topic of racism. So I know that our viewers are in for a treat this evening. This is UpSurge. Real people, real discussions, real questions, real answers. UpSurge, where the surge is always up.
And welcome back to UpSurge, where the surge is always up. Joining me, I have Jabari Lindsay, an elder at Meadowvale. He is also a social worker. He's been in the field since the year 2000. So he's going to be talking to us a little bit about racism in Canada and racism both in the field as well. So just to start off, Jabari, do you think that racism exists in Canada?
So first I want to say I'm not a troublemaker. Let's start there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to answer your question directly, yes, racism exists in the world.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those conversations that we tend to, in North America, get our conversations from the South. But we definitely need to think broadly about the concept of racism in Canada.
Absolutely.
So as you said, we're both social workers. We think about the concept quite readily. But I want to answer your question and also think about it from a definitions perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you say does racism exist in Canada, you have to think first. Do human beings prejudge one another generally everywhere? Well,
Absolutely.
yes. In Canada, definitely. Then, as we continue down that slope, do human beings prejudge one another based on how we look? Well, yes, definitely that is something we need to consider. And then finally, based on how we look or how we think someone looks, with a whole bunch of other conceptual things that are fed into our brains from birth, we then make decisions based on what we think about another person. So if I'm walking down the street and someone smiles at me, depending on who that person is, the context of it, the setting of the day, the time of the day, how I'm feeling, you as well, you may take that differently, nuanced, challenged. That smile could be from someone that makes you feel happy, or it could be for someone that you want to run away screaming, saying, why is this guy smiling at me so oddly, right?
Yeah.
So I think the concept of does it exist in Canada is so true now because, everything is America, US,
Yeah.
and we're not necessarily having those conversations in Canada as yet.
It feels like we almost distance it, so it's not here at home. We're safe here.
Well, it's like having a neighbor that makes a lot of noise. They don't really do much. They don't cut their lawn. And you want to say, no, I'm not like that person.
Of course.
But we're both homeowners.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, something is going to go on in my home that may go on in their home. And we need to have a conversation about it. So.
Absolutely. Okay. So just in talking about that, what is anti-Black racism? We've had that conversation. I've heard that term thrown around. And I hear it in the classroom, but just to our general viewers, what is anti-Black racism?
Well, it's a good question because as a you got one more year, right?
One more
We're
year,
gonna celebrate.
yeah.
I remember when you chose to be a social worker, and I was like,
Yeah.
I was excited. So anti-black racism is an interesting concept because there is the general prejudging of a human being,
Yeah.
right? And the general discrimination that happens. And then there are, if we consider the construct, I'm sure you've heard that in school.
Absolutely.
So the concept of race is, you know, there are brown, black, peach. My kids went to daycare, Jesse and Corey,
Yeah.
and Isaac, and they said the peach people say this and the peach people say that as kids, right? Like they had already at 3, 2 year, 1 years old started to filter the world through this color, this color, this color.
Yeah.
So to drill into racism to say is that someone prejudges someone based on someone else's color, but also the nuance that they believe that their race is better.
Okay.
Right? So that's an important nuance. It's not just I think that your race is crummy, it's that I also think my race is better. Anti-black racism is a concept of a structural piece of racism that exists that will negatively affect people of African heritage or darker skin.
Okay.
So it's you'll hear it in school around colonialism, around structural racism, but it's really this predominating thought that the darker the berry, the more nasty the juice. If you were to take that thing and kind of mix it up.
Yeah.
So it's hard to just say, well, that is anti-black racism or that is anti-black racism because it's so difficult to put your finger on.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, as you probably heard in school, once you get that lens and you know how to see it, it's unseeable.
You can't stop seeing it.
Right.
It's in everything.
And it drives you
crazy.
Yes. So anti-black racism is one of those things where it's systems, structures, processes that are set up to purposefully hinder the progression of people of African descent or of darker skin.
Okay.
Specifically black skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And so we were just talking about structural racism, so systemic racism. Could we explain that a little bit, and what does it mean to you specifically?
Yeah. I work for the City of Toronto, so full disclaimer there.
Yeah.
And the simplest way to kind of think about it is when policies, procedures, bylaws, all the things that make the city run and hum were created, they were created in an atmosphere where there was a lack of people, specifically like ourselves, who were A, considered people, and B, were able to feed into the system and development of these things.
Yeah.
So they became natural hindrances to our development.
Okay.
So if you had privilege and power, which is the big kind of duo in this conversation, then the structural systems would support you. But if you do not have privilege and power, then these structures will work against you. So any system, and you can go across the world, that has people that have less power than other people, those people are going to have problems in that system. Specifically in our system, we have policies and procedures that were developed by people that did not know, or maybe they did, if we really be truthful, that those same procedures would be hindering people of color for years and years and generations and generations. So in the States, you'll hear Jim Crow rules, you'll hear full segregation laws, whereas in Canada, there's a similar system that was developed with our Indigenous brothers and sisters were the direct targets of that.
Absolutely.
But because they had no power and privilege, they were the affected benefactor of these negative systems. Us migrating into this country, similar lack of power and privilege, we now are facing the same negative anti-black or anti-Indigenous systems of power.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hopefully that makes sense for the non-social workers.
Yeah, I know. It's just like one social worker to another.
It's basically like you set up a rule that says, if you have power, this rule benefits you. And then everyone else in the room that does not have any power now are the unofficial, the rain falls on them all day long. So that's kind of the simplest way to kind of say it,
Okay. And just to take from what you were talking about, I feel like if we're talking definitions here, let's talk a little bit about power and privilege. What would you describe as somebody who has power and privilege?
this is another one of those social work things.
Yeah.
You have to go through your own social construct,
Absolutely.
who you are,
Yeah.
and think about the things that bring you power. So I, as a black man, will be able to say that I have faced racism and anti-black racism in my life.
Yeah.
But I am also a man. So that maleness brings me power.
Absolutely.
So that begins to balance. I have a home. I drive a car. I got a job. Power, power, power.
You're doing okay there.
I'm doing, well, my wife would say I'm doing better than okay. I'm working hard out here.
Yeah.
So the more you strike on that power and privilege ledge, the better off, according to our particular system, the better off you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually manage an office for Ontario Works, or welfare, it was called 20 years ago.
Okay.
So I know men, women, children who are on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
No money, no home, no job. Plus they have new to the country, don't speak the language well, and they are part of a religion that is not part of the populist religion here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lack of privilege, therefore lack of power, therefore all the negative things that comes along with it.
Absolutely.
So it's a system where you can eliminate the person that's standing at your door saying, we don't want you here, go home, we hate you, that overt racism. But it's a system that also has that that challenging undercurrent that you could feel if you're one of those people, but if you're not there,
then it's kind of goes
Challenge.
over your head.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've all seen what's been going on recently in the news, all over social media. It's been a lot. So I just want to ask, how have you been coping?
Wow. Not well. I think the COVID quarantine.
That made it worse.
Well, you know what? It made it so that you had nothing else to think about but whatever was coming through your TV screen if you chose to watch that.
Yeah.
So for some of us who are Christians, it gave us a more chance to spend time in the Word uninterrupted. But for myself, we opened an open office, so I've been going to work. You know, when the streets were clear and everyone was cowering at home, I was going into work. So for me, the coping was difficult because the two things that COVID-19 did not destroy, even though we got social distancing and now everything's online and all that, it didn't destroy poverty and it didn't destroy racism.
Absolutely.
So we still had homeless gentlemen and people showing up at our door looking for food every day. Because when Tim Hortons and all those things closed, they had nowhere to go. So we had people showing up to us saying, well, you're the last door that's literally open. Everyone else is hiding. Please help me. And those same people would then go to, when things started to open up slowly, to a bank or to a food bank and something. And then you'd have people there saying, well, you might, now the subtle nuance of racism saying, I didn't want to serve you before because you're poor or dirty. Now I could just say, well, you might have COVID.
Absolutely.
Stay outside. So it was really challenging to deal with the COVID scare, as I call it. And also just the pervasiveness of all of the things that didn't go away. Right? So I've been dealing with that by trying to support people, and I guess we could talk about that as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to jump into all of that. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always up. Welcome back to UpSurge, where the surge is always up. I have Jabari Lindsay joining me once again. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about current media and the news and how you've been coping with that. So you were talking a little bit about your work experience and the fact that you didn't get the chance to really deal with what's going on. Everything's still been happening, right?
I think the how to deal has been the most difficult part. So what we did was, or what I did was, I've really pushed myself to try to be more of a leader at work. My division has 1,800 people in it, of which I think about 30 or 40% of it are identified black people. The weekend, I call it the weekend, of the fight for social justice, I call it, not riots. Another one of those nuances of anti-black racism. The fight for social justice that happened that particular weekend a couple weeks ago left everybody feeling really crummy. And since then, we have doubled down our efforts at the City of Toronto to try to create a network for black staff within my division and within the corporation. We've definitely pushed for more conversations like this one, where you feel like you've either come to this country or, like myself, born and raised in this country, and you hope that your efforts are not judged because you are one part of your identity. Because I'm a black person, they hired me for this, or because I'm a man, et cetera. So I think it's hopeful that, for me anyways, really just trying to reach out to the staff around me to kind of have a conversation about how they're feeling. And kind of make sure that we're going to be all right. And but we need to stay in contact and fellowship, right? And then the other piece is really just diving into the Word. And there's been a lot of sadness and focus on people that have passed away over the last couple months because you can't do funerals, you can't do this, can't do that. So I've never found myself witnessing to so many people over a 3-month period.
Wow.
Because people are coming saying, the person that sanitizes our door handles lost 3 brothers in 3 months.
Wow.
So when she wipes down my handle and stops for a moment, I make sure that I say, how you doing? How you feeling? Can I just share a word with you? Is that okay? And I know people say, you're not supposed to do that at work, etc. The COVID rules are what I call them now, the Jordan rules. You can do whatever you want at work as long as it's intentional and being helpful. So I find like this is a good time to just spread the word with people and talk to them.
I'm going to throw a question out at you, and I asked a similar question a couple weeks ago, but as a black father, how are you coping? And no, I have to ask just because I feel like there's so much that we have to share with the next generation, and we want it to be better for them. So how are you? I'm not a parent, so I can't imagine what you're thinking or feeling. So
what I'm thinking and feeling is worried. I grew up in the city that I'm raising my children in Brampton. And I remember the street that we got pulled over every day when they would stop us and say, oh, it's a routine spot check. Pull down your seats. We're going to go and look every day. And it's the same police force that people are criticizing now that I've been doing particular things. The way that I'm coping is twofold. Again, and it's the same way that I'm coping. I've been doing, and shout out to Auntie Lanice and the Children's Ministries folks. We do videos every night now where I'm just spending more time with them. A quote that a good friend of mine gave me when I first became a father 11 years ago, he said, your children need to know your character. So before I'm a black man, before I'm a dad, before I'm this, they know me as a person, all of my flaws, all of my negativity. And when the TV may say, we're looking for a man with, literally heard this, I was walking on the street the other day and police, looking for a man, suspect, dreads, 6'3", and I'm like, oh my God, that's me. I need them to know when they look at me, they see someone that they know and they could relate to, and they're proud to be. And then the second part, I took them to a rally, and
that's awesome.
For 3 weeks now, they've been chanting, no justice, no peace, while they're playing with their Legos and stuff. So I'm hoping that, my dad is from Grenada, and he grew up with Morris Bishop, and he would tell us about the conversations that were happening there about togetherness and people and making sure that we were raised in a social conscious way. He handed me my Malcolm X book when I was 12. So I'm doing the same thing with my kids. I'm just going to raise them from a social justice perspective, but also knowing that they are proud black people, regardless of whatever the world decides to tell them that they are.
Absolutely.
So that's my father answer, I think.
And
then I'm going to add a piece to your question. As a husband. Because my wife, I think, sees me leaving every day, and there's a worry that black women have for their men, that they don't talk about it a lot until something unfortunate happens. So I think for me, the praying with her and making sure that we're connected has been even more important because this is a scary world for men that look like myself. And for their partners. So when my wife sees me go every morning and I say, don't worry, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to take care of myself. And then we pray together. We're asking God to kind of lead our steps to make sure that I come home.
Absolutely.
So it's important.
And so something that a lot of people take for granted.
When I say take for granted, I mean the black woman's place in this conversation. And that, the mom, the auntie, the wife, I was with my sister this morning, the sisters
Yeah.
who are looking at their boys and men and saying, please, I hope nothing comes to this person.
Yeah.
But it's the same prayer of protection that we pray every day for our brothers and sisters, that we need to just continue to pray fervently around and stay grounded in that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. We're just going to move on. So what have you been doing? You talked a little bit about how you've been coping and how that reflects at work, but what have you been doing in terms of the next steps?
Well, I'm trying to, again, from a spiritual place, just really being mindful about praying for the youth of our church.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to have that much information coming at you. Google and YouTube and all these things that I tell my children are only like 15 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So I grew up in a space where we knew all of the evils and dangers that were around us, but they weren't telecasted through our phones and through our TVs and through our this. So I pray that you guys, or young people, have built in a filter to know when it's time to shut down the trauma.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, I'm just going to run through a sprinkler today. I'm just going to do that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's go eat a popsicle and just be a kid and not try to change the world social justice-wise every day.
Every day.
I think the other piece is just, I've been trying to reach out to young people that I know and just make sure that they're okay and ask that question purposefully, or like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And then, the other way is I'm trying to become more social media mindful.
Okay.
So posting things and sharing art and sharing words of wisdom and things that your generation lives in a world that, unless you know how to get into it, like through your phone or through your computer, like you don't get access to that. Now that I know how to do it, I don't think I'm that old, It's important for me to be in there to say to folks that are angry and that want to go and break something and want to run up and down and just yell and scream that this is a big loop. And racism, just like prejudice, just like all of that, is a sin that was created and that we have to pray away, but also act away.
Absolutely.
Right? So just being mindful in that. And then finally, just like I said before, really working closely with the folks at work to not just treat people better from a client perspective, but also ensuring that our Black employees at the City of Toronto, and hooray, the City of Brampton's finally got their own unit now, so I reached out to them to try to see if I could help there. But, just continuing to do the work that I've always done. And just try to make sure that people feel supported in the work that needs to happen. So,
Okay, that's very, very important. And I just want to jump back a little bit. You talked about unplugging, and I've heard people say this to me for the past couple of weeks, and I hear it, and it's like it goes in one ear and it's out the other, because as soon as I open my phone, it doesn't matter what platform you go to, it's there. So do you have any tips for unplugging or ways that you've done it? Just to kind of
airplane mode. Airplane
that's
mode.
So hard.
Airplane mode. See, I got all these guys over here like, what the heck? What's airplane mode? Airplane mode. Just hit that little airplane button on your phone. And give it an hour. Right? It's a slow drip. It's not going to be easy. Airplane mode is definitely your best friend when you're at home and there's Wi-Fi there and you can't go anywhere. Hit airplane mode and just do stuff. Because your phone won't be buzzing. Tip number 2, because I do it. My phone doesn't notify me for anything. If I want to know what's going on my phone, I have to actively go into it. So that won't help you turn off that cessation of what's going on. But at least your phone won't call to you. So just turn off all the notifications on your phone. So those are 2 very functional things. And then the other thing is smother your phone in other types of apps. So the Bible app just created this new thing where you click it and it's a story. So it gives you the theme of the day. Today was dealing with sin, temptation. And then it does a quote, and then it does an actual speaker. So usually these really cool people from California with great tans and stuff or whatever. And then it gives you an actual devotional that you can take on.
Wow.
Right? So it's not just the regular open your Bible and hopefully something in these hither and thithers will inspire you. Right? Speaking very real, that's how I do. I mean, sometimes you have to figure out different ways to figure out how to get that word into your spirit and then let the Holy Spirit do its work. So don't think that, opening a Bible is going to make you turn off WhatsApp. Especially with the Meadowvale 17 groups that we have on WhatsApp.
Oh my gosh, don't talk about it. Don't talk about
it. Too many groups. So if you have so many groups, and then the final thing, and you know, Jesus did this in his ministry, is accumulate people in your world that want to talk about other things other than whatever's going on.
Mainstream,
on the screen.
yeah.
Yeah, like accumulate people in your world that will say, hey, I'm going to send you a text.
Yeah.
That person might be Sister Charmaine Johnson, who sends out 6 WhatsApp, here's some inspirational messages in the day.
Yeah.
Or it might be, you know, my mother-in-law, Ms. Gardner, who will send, you know, these pictures of flowers in a verse. And at first it's like, this is super corny. But then if you join a group with that, and that's what you're getting.
Yeah.
Imagine the beauty that would come with that. Right?
Absolutely.
So unplugging is not necessarily turn it off. Because then the you know, Lucifer, start whispering to you and say, oh, I wonder what so-and-so's saying on TMZ. It's really just, maybe it's about smothering some other things in there.
Yeah, that's so important.
But it's important.
Yeah.
Oh, final thing, go take a walk.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
Take a
that's
walk.
definitely
Take a 10-minute
needed
walk.
right now.
And 10 minutes will turn into 100 minutes because you're still working through some sort of problem that you've had. Sister Bryant and the health ministries team started that walking thing.
Yeah, counting
Pastor's
your steps.
losing terribly in it, so when he comes up here, you can laugh at him. I'm at 26,000 steps for the day, so you can tell him that. But those are some things you could be doing. Leave your phone at home, airplane mode, and go for a walk.
Okay.
By the time you get back, you'll feel tired.
And you'll feel better.
You wouldn't have looked at the screens, and you know, things will move on.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So I'm just gonna ask one more question. We're gonna do a 2-in-1 kind of wrap-up thing. So what has given you hope in the past circumstances, and any words of advice for just young people that have been dealing with everything that we've been dealing with the past couple of weeks?
What gives me hope, and this has been giving the 40-somethings in my life, that we remember the 90s and the riots that happened then.
Yeah.
We remember the early 2000s and the riots that happened then. We aren't the generation that remembers the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings of the 60s.
Yeah.
And we were all born here.
Yeah.
Right? So I think what gives me hope is our children, because I have friends that have teenage kids now, which is crazy.
Wow.
Our children, our nieces and nephews are the ones that are leading the marches.
Yeah.
So the march that happened at the Peel District School Board, one of the speakers was one of my good friend's daughter. And it's like, we're watching her, like, I remember when she came home, and we're like, how are you gonna take care of that?
Yeah.
And now she's like speaking.
Yeah.
So the hope is that the next generation of folks are doing this stuff in a way that change is actually happening.
Yeah.
You're seeing legislation change. You're seeing that even though it got voted down in Toronto, the motion went forward for 10% reduction
of the police. Yeah.
And then finally, I think you know, I'm not a quoter of scripture very well, but our hope is built on Jesus.
Yeah.
Period. So if for me, my hope is built on the idea that he's coming again soon, and that the people that stay close to him unequivocally do well.
Yeah.
I think advice I would give is that if you are not connected to some sort of group, conversation, session, you should become involved. You should get connected.
Yeah.
You should definitely not just be posting something on Instagram and think that you've done it.
No.
And then finally, I would say advice is do something. So if you have $20, put your $20 to your local Black Lives Matter walk or some sort of charity. There are Black-led organizations, Black-led restaurants that are struggling, Black-led clothing designers like the shirt I'm wearing. Like really go out there and support people that are struggling against systems that are actively trying to hold them back.
Absolutely.
Right? So support. And then finally, because I would be remiss if I didn't say this from some of my good friends, support Black creatives.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a understanding that European creations are good, and creations that are done by inherently Black people are not valued in the same.
Yeah.
So if you're on Instagram, look for some Black art and retweet that.
Yeah.
If you know a painter, a picture maker, a book writer, go out and support them. Because I tried to make a list of Black children books that were written in Canada.
Wow.
And
Okay.
whoa, it was very, very difficult.
Wow.
So the only place I was able to find was Fold. It's a literacy conference that happens every year, FOLD.
Okay.
So if you're looking for children's books to have a conversation with your kids, I would do that.
Okay.
And then just for young people generally, just stay close, stay connected.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys already have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
But don't ignore the words of wisdoms from the actual elders.
Yeah.
Because they've seen this circle a few times already. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thank
Jabari.
you. I remember when you chose social work, and I was like, yes, and here you are hosting a TV show.
Yeah.
The whole world
How did we get here?
The whole world is excited for you, and we are all very proud of you, because I haven't heard anyone say that to you yet.
Oh,
we're all very proud of
thank
you.
you.
So keep up the good work, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We'll be back right after this with Pastor D and our next guest. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always up.
School. Yes, I believe everyone should have a high school diploma.
You know what they say, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, you know, especially when it's accompanied by a body.
I'm a fourth-year aerodynamics student hoping to join the space program. I'd like to focus on coupled atmospheric hydrology. It's a subject that's intrigued me ever since I was just an Indian little child, and now... Oh, hope I'm not flying above y'all heads. Well, it appears that would be easy since it seems y'all never would have left the ground.
Oh, are you speaking down to us?
I would never do a thing like that. Oh. As a matter of fact, I don't think y'all understood a word I just said. Y'all wouldn't rest speaking down to y'all. That would be an exercise in futility.
You know, it was a bad idea to have this meeting without Marion. Let's reschedule.
I need to get home to my husband.
But I haven't had a chance to ask your advice yet.
Next time, honey, just hold the thought.
I hope I didn't say anything inappropriate. I was just trying to be friendly.
Look, darling, don't you have some dance class to attend or some book to read on flying? Flying.
If I didn't know better, I think that y'all were trying to get rid of me.
But since you know better, have a good evening.
I pray that ones like you would learn a lesson. There are times to be seen and simply not be heard.
Welcome back to UpSurge. Real people, real discussions, real questions, real answers. UpSurge, where the surge is always up. We are here this evening with our second guest, Mr. Carl Hutchinson. That is me. A writer, a sales training manager. You told me something else that is still kind of shocking. You're married for what, 30 years? 20 years?
39 years.
Married for 39 years. So I really want to know how old are you? Because you got married when you were 5?
You got it. Right on. Just 5. I was right out of the cradle, man. Right out of the cradle.
Tell us some more about Carl. And in telling us about yourself, explain the mathematics. How you are 45 and you're married for 39 years. Yeah.
Well, the math works out rather conveniently because I also have we have 3 children.
Okay.
And the youngest is 30 and the eldest is 36, along with 3 grandchildren. Our oldest grandchild is 12, soon to be 13. And we have a 9-year-old, who's the 9-year-old and 18-month-old grandchild as well.
Wow. Yeah, so you are a writer. Yeah. We were playing some of your pieces during the break. Tell us something about that.
Well, I've been writing for quite some time. We started over 20 years, about 25 years ago, with TKJ Productions. TKJ Productions, actually, the letters really are significant because they're all my children's names, Tanisha, Javon, and Kadeen. Mm-hmm. And so we started TKJ Productions with the intent of doing ministry differently. We wanted to bring something that would incite, provide information, and at the same time entertain. So we started TKJ Productions with the intent of providing a medium by which we can engage young people, engage people of different ages, as a matter of fact, providing some entertainment. I mean, we focus mainly on comedy, but we deliver a strong message, a powerful message at the end or through the whole presentation, as a matter of fact.
Okay, so it's comedy, but there's a message. So I'm getting that you do like spiritual-based production?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we don't do anything unless it is spiritually aligned.
Good.
Simply because the message, if you go to our website, tkjproductions.com, you'll see that what we do is really use the form, i.e. acting, productions, as a means of delivering God's message.
That's right.
There are a lot of entertainers out there who do a lot of different things that are not necessarily aligned with what we like to consider wholesome. It's very hard-pressed for you to go and find a show, a live production these days without some form of swearing or nudity or something of that nature that always has to add some element to get people in their theaters. Not realizing that just good, wholesome writing, good comedy, good product overall will actually bring the people there. And we've been very fortunate because we've pretty well done most of our shows is being sold out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know, well, I heard about you when I just came to Canada because of a production that you did when the General Conference, the Seventh-day Adventist General Conference session was here in Canada.
Yeah, in 2000.
In 2000.
Right.
So you were actually, your production was actually featured at the General Conference.
Yeah, we did a production for the young people called Coming Home, and it was centered about, or Going Home, I should say, centered around the fact that we're going to heaven. What are you preparing? What are you planning? What are the things that you're doing to get yourself in order so that you can really enjoy the bliss, so to speak, of heaven.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this week we are talking about a topic that has been trending.
Yeah.
You for the past few weeks, it's just interesting how this issue of prejudice and racism, how it has emerged. We see the videos. It's really started with the George Floyd, the police officer, had his knee on his neck for several minutes, and then the protest. It's like it really woke up all people, to the reality of this monster called racism. As a writer, producer, sales manager, a black man, but in your context, is racism real? Is it real?
Alive and well. It is alive and well. Definitely racism is there. I've had quite a few incidents myself. I have not been immune from experiencing racism at all. As a matter of fact, it's a daily occurrence. I'll give you a recent occurrence in that it wasn't a form of racism, but you can see the end result of it in that I attended a conference that we had in Texas.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, just before COVID started in February, and I went there, and there were over 350 management-type people there, whether it be VPs, directors, managers, you name them, they were all there, 350. And I looked around the room, I panned the room, and to my surprise, I thought to myself, there were only two people that, or should I say, one other person that looks like me in this room.
350 people?
350 people.
In a hall in Texas?
A hall, yeah.
And only two black people.
Yeah, so it was, I said to myself, well, wait a minute, what chance do my children have?
Whoa.
Or what chance do my grandchildren and these other individuals who are seeking employment have when the ratio is so slanted?
How did you feel? Was it intimidating?
It was and it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't. I say it wasn't simply because of the fact that I'm used to being outnumbered, so to speak. I came to Canada 50 years ago, over 50 years ago.
You came to Canada over 50
Yeah,
years
so
ago.
you know you can do the math. But the math's starting to come together now, right? Came to Canada in 1969. 1969. You probably weren't even born as yet.
No, I wasn't. Nowhere near here.
Nowhere near here. You were probably not even a thought in your parents' mind.
Not even a thought.
All right, so yeah, that was 1969 we came to this country. And when you come to a country like Canada in the 60s or late 60s, it's rather apparent that you're going to have to learn to do things alone a lot. And you're going to stand out quite frequently, as a matter of fact. And you have to develop, as we say in the West Indies, thick skin, so to speak.
Yeah.
You have to tough it out because you're going to come up against a lot of situations that you're going to have to deal with. You know, when you look at what's happened recently with Floyd and a lot of the different things that are being, because of the good old camera and social media, all right, we're seeing a lot of those things now. But it's not that they weren't happening before.
We're catching them now.
We're catching them now.
Yeah.
They become visible to
but
the
but
naked
but
eye.
this thing has been going on for a while.
For a long time.
It's just a blessing now that we have the opportunity, as you said, via gadgets.
Right, and you can speak to any. Sorry to cut you off, but you can speak to any person who's been in this country or anywhere in North America for as long as I have, and they can tell you stories. They can give you a lot of stories. I mean, I can tell you stories right now, riding my bike home.
We are in Canada, because I want to know, this is a question that a lot of people, I talk to people all the time, and they're like, so, I mean, you're okay, you're in Canada. That's what my friends in the States say to me.
Streets paved with gold.
Yeah, they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, I understand what you're going. I'm like, they're like, no, you are in Canada. You don't know what is happening here in America.
Yeah.
You coming here in the 60s, right? Do you, and you have been here for 50 years.
That's correct. Over 50.
Tell us, is racism here? Is it strong? Is it entrenched in Canada? Is it an issue that we have to deal with in this context?
It's an issue. It's just a little bit more. It's not as in your face as the U.S. It's overt. It's there. Canadians are very good at presenting a front.
Yeah.
They're very good at it. And let's face it, we live in a melting pot. We have a lot of cultures represented in North America, and that's been the saving grace of black individuals to a large extent, because we have a lot of Indians, we have Chinese, we have a lot of different cultures that are here. So we do have a mixture of different peoples here, but that does not isolate us as black people from racism. I remember going for a job interview, just to bring up another incident. I remember going for a job interview after sending in my resume. Carl Hutchinson, if you look at that name, Carl spelled with a K, Hutchinson, very German. You're expecting somebody blonde, blue eyes. All right?
Yeah.
So I sent my resume in, which apparently they were really excited about, and called me in for an interview. And I remember appearing in the door and opening the door, and the lady looking at me and was somewhat surprised. And you can tell the look on her face. She couldn't hide it.
Wow.
Simply because of the fact that she wasn't expecting someone who looked like me.
Not expecting to see a black man showing up.
Not expecting to see a black man, with my resume and a whole bit.
A black man with such a colorful resume and and the name.
And the name, it just doesn't jive. It didn't work. Didn't work.
Yeah. So a black man just don't fit in this kind of.
So she was rather honest about it, and she said, well, quite honestly, your name and your resume, gave me the impression that you were somebody else. She couldn't hide it. She couldn't hide it because she was shocked. She was shocked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have any experiences growing up? Because when we think about the 60s, we know a lot of things transpired during those times. Do you have any experience you'd want to share?
Oh my goodness!
You have a lot.
There's so many experiences.
Hold them. We're going to share it. We'll share it after the break. This is UpSurge. Real people, real discussions, real questions, real answers. UpSurge, where the surge is always up. We will see you on the next side of the break. UpSurge.
Howdy do? How y'all doing tonight? Y'all come to have a good time, eh? Great. For all the Jamaicans in the house, how you do? All right, all the Trini, how y'all do? That's all I know. Anyway, my name is Mavis Mackenzie, and I am neither rich nor poor. The Lord blessed me with 5 children. He knew I couldn't handle more. 4 of the 5 have moved away.
Yeah, what we're playing one of your pieces.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a full, well, not a full version, but we'll play some more if we could find some time at the end of the show. And for viewers to really see, I was enjoying that clip, but then our stage manager said that we have to go. But I was tuning into the ladies. Seems so interesting, right? So yeah, so you were saying in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the experiences you had as a young man.
Well, as a young man, I remember one incident coming home from, I used to work at this drop-in center called Oakwood Youth Center, at Oakwood and Vaughan area, Oakwood and Sinclair and Dufferin area, between Dufferin and Ossington, and riding my bike home, and I was pulled over by these police officers. They pushed me over onto the sidewalk, grabbed my bag off my back, and took it and emptied it out on the sidewalk, and was looking through, and I said, "Is there something wrong?" "Shut up, young man." I had to just keep quiet. I mean, you're talking, that was actually early 70s at that time. And they went through my things, and then they said, "Sorry, you're not the person we're looking for." They jumped on in their car, took off, and that was it.
And they left your stuff there?
Just left my stuff all over the ground. I remember coming home and telling my parents, and my mother was furious. My brothers wanted to do something about it, but at that time, there was nothing that could be done about it.
Yeah.
You just had to suck it up.
Yeah.
Suck it up. My brother wanted to go and file a report and things of that nature, but
what about going to school and stuff?
Going to school was interesting. In those days, I remember I went to, in grade 7, grade 8, you're in a school with, we had a total of 3 black kids. In the whole school.
Or the class, the school?
No, we're not talking the class. We're talking about the whole school. The whole school. When you went to a school and you had even one other black kid, you felt special. We had 3 of us in total, so we were, we were good. All right. So, everything is relative. You compare it now to today's situation, which is a lot different, but the racism still exists.
Yeah.
And I remember as a hockey player, I wanted to play hockey. When I came to
You wanted to play hockey?
I wanted to play hockey, man. Wanted to play hockey. I loved hockey.
As a black man?
As a black man. Even though my friends, told me, don't bother with that.
Not basketball, not soccer.
I played basketball as well, but I wanted hockey. I wanted hockey because I loved skating. I loved the idea of being on ice. I loved the stick handling. I love all the different moves.
Were you skillful enough?
I felt that I was, but it was interesting because when I went for the team, which I was still a new Canadian, but I learned quickly. I went for the team, and the coach said to me, "Do you know that, I hate to tell you, but black people have a history of ankle problems."
You went for the team, and they said that black people
have a history of ankle problems. So skating is not something that we recommend that you do. And that was, told to me at that time as a young man. And so I had to go home and tell my parents this. So my father, if you know my father, he says, "You are going to learn to skate. You are going to be the best skater on that team." And what he did was he took me out to the skating rink at the back, and we'd be there sometimes late at night. He didn't know anything about skating, but he'd say, "Go forward, backwards, forward, backwards." And I had to go do all those things, get all those drills. He said, "Let them try to kick you off the team now." So that was the start of my hockey.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of challenges that the race has faced and has been facing. And as we mentioned earlier, in recent times, we see this situation in the United States.
Right.
It was such a blatant and brutal video to watch. I mean, so inhumane. The guy was there, the police officer, and it was obvious that he wanted to kill the guy, right? So we see these things, and it's hurtful, right? It's painful. Right. You having experienced, not to that extent, racism, right? But you would have experienced it, because it must have been heart-wrenching going for that interview and hearing that, trying out for hockey, and hearing that. You went to Texas a few days ago, and a few months ago, you saw this situation, only 2 black people in a room with 350 individuals. My question is, how do we deal with this? How do we as a race deal with this, come together and really overcome this hurdle?
Well, one of the things that we're doing right now, which you and I are doing, is talking. And talk is very important. As a matter of fact, as black men, I think black men in particular, we need to get some of these things out by having conversation. One of the things that we started recently was this group called Let's Talk, and it's really a group of black men coming together to talk about how we actually feel about these things that happen, because historically we've been known to hold a lot on the inside, and we boil, and that really causes a lot of problems. As you know, we're at high risk of heart disease, we're at high risk of hypertension and all these different challenges that health-wise, and many of those things are caused by stress.
True.
And so because we don't let a lot of these things out, we hold a lot of things on the inside. So we first of all must talk. We must learn to get it out, have conversation. Secondly, then what we must do is devise means by which we can support each other.
Yes.
The black community now more than ever, if this isn't a wake-up call for us to come together and realize the importance of supporting every member of the black community, then there would never be another opportunity of this nature.
Wow.
I don't think we would have missed the boat. And when I talk about supporting, I'm not just talking about saying, hey man, you're doing a good job, keep up the good work. No, I'm talking about put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about ensuring that you hire, ensuring that you support financially other businesses that might be struggling, ensuring that we don't create what is called individual wealth. When I talk about individual wealth versus community wealth.
That's deep.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Individual wealth versus community wealth.
Yeah, and the reason why I mention that is simply because of the fact that, unfortunately, many of us are enticed or encouraged to build individual wealth to show ourselves being better than the next person. In doing so, what we're doing is really knocking down or destroying the black community.
Yeah, because when we do that, what we create is not racism, but classism within the same black community. And we still have, it's the same problem. It's the same problem.
So what we need to do is find ways to encourage by saying, you know something, if I'm a black businessman, whether I have a legal firm or whether I have any other form of business, whether it be stonework, my job now is to train and support 3 or 4 other black business people, all right, to get them to the level that I'm at. Because when you do so, you're building a community of wealth. Yes. When you share that knowledge of what you have learned and how you actually got to the position that you're in, you're actually now infusing the growth, the potential for growth as far as wealth within that community. When you have more of you bringing in these dollars, then you have power within your community to be able to put people in positions as far as votes are concerned.
Wow.
You get where I'm going?
Wow.
All right?
Yeah,
because we all know that financially, if we cannot be respected in a community if we don't have the financial support.
That is true.
Money speaks when it comes to voting. All right? Money puts people in position. So we now have to build that infrastructure within our community to put some of our people in those positions.
So let's backtrack a little bit, because what you're saying is profound, right? Communication.
Right.
Coming together as a people. Talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That's one. And then now, the next phase is operating as a community.
Yes.
Right? Seeing your brother as your brother.
Yeah.
And wanting someone to have the same success as you, or to even have more than you. We must come to the point where we want the next generation to raise the bar a little bit higher than the present generation. A friend of mine sent me something the other day. I don't know if this ties into your your community wealth, proposal. But it's interesting, right? He said to me that, did you know that if 10 people come together and save $500 per month,
oh boy,
that's
you're talking my talk.
That's $60,000
Yeah.
for the year.
Yeah.
That's down payment for 3 houses.
There you go.
So 3 people, so 3 people will have houses. Then by the following year, the same 10 people save. You build a community there. And then what happens is that you are actually controlling the value of the homes in that community. You are controlling what transpires in the community, right? That's just a way to
and now those 10 people individually start that out with 10 other individuals.
Yes.
Can you see how that would multiply?
Yeah.
And not think necessarily about my personal riches, because I believe there's a major difference between individual riches, because riches, it's not generational in many cases. All right? Wealth is.
Yeah.
All right? Wealth is. And it's important that we build accordingly.
Yeah. It is. It's such an interesting conversation this evening. We have to get you back, Sir Carl. It's a must, but we are almost out of time. The last question for you. There are so many youth out there, young men, young women, black young people. We try, we fail, we are so tired at times, frustrated. We are disappointed not only by other races, but oftentimes we have been disappointed by our very own. As I talk to people, especially young people, I can actually feel their pain and empathize with their struggles, right? Folks are really trying. It's just not working out as black people. Then we look on the TV and then we see all these things happening. It's just so depressing. What's the last word you have for us? A word of encouragement for someone there who is on the verge of giving up, a black person, a young man, a young lady.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, first of all, don't give up.
Yeah.
If I look back on my 50 years in this country, if you look back to where we were 50 years ago and where we are today, steps have been made.
True.
We can't always think from a fatalistic perspective to say that, something, it's not going to work out. We have to create opportunities for ourselves. I think one of the things that we have listened too long to is the negativity that comes over media, the social media, negativity that comes over the different media forms that delivers these subliminal messages to our youth, telling them of how worthless they are. We now as parents, we now as grandparents, we now as a community must find ways to communicate positive messaging on an ongoing basis from the time these children are young, from babies, letting them know of their worth. Now, what's entrenched, or what should be entrenched in everything that we do, is the fact that we must have a foundation.
Yes.
And some people don't like to hear too much about this, but it is so important that we have a Christian base. We got to have that base.
The God factor.
You got to have the God factor, because that's your pivot.
Yeah.
That's your pivot. Once I can get you to understand the importance of God in your life,
yes,
we can have conversations about growth.
Yes.
And it becomes much easier.
Yeah.
But if you don't see the positive impact that God can have in your life, then you would feel somewhat, discouraged and feel like life has no hope. And I tell you, there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of opportunity for us. All we have to do is grab it.
That's true. Thank you so much, Sir Carl, for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.
This is a wrap. UpSurge, real people, real conversations, real questions, real answers, real issues. UpSurge, where the surge is always up. Be sure to join us next week, same time. We will be having a panel, UpSurge Part 2, Racism, Prejudice, Racism. Panel will be here. It's possible that Sir Carl will be on the panel. I hope you could make it next week for that. But we continue to have the conversation. This is UpSurge, where the surge is always up, and it's a wrap.
I'm very
merry heart has got to be. All the pain that God must feel, God must be laughing. At the silly things we do, see from heaven's point of view. Since there's nothing else to do, God must be laughing. Our confusion is so real. A merry heart has power to heal. And all the pain that God must feel, He must be laughing. God must be laughing. God must be laughing.